Heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded, so I think I'll just stay where I am. So many people, well, it sure is lonely. Who even gives a damn? I hear someone calling, come in from the craziness, but there ain't nobody around. Heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded, so I think I'll just stay where I am. Heaven left for California on a midnight plane. Hell stayed behind so I wouldn't be lonely. Reasons it's hard to explain. Could it be hell is heaven and heaven is hell, and each one are both the same thing? Well, I hope heaven finds what she's looking for, and that hell treats us both just the same. Heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded, so I think I'll just stay where I am. So many people, well, it sure is lonely. Who even gives a damn? I hear someone calling, come in from the craziness, but there ain't nobody around. Heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded, so I think I'll just stay where I am. Let's burn one for those living in hell. Let's burn one for those who think they're in heaven. Burn one for everyone in the whole world and anyone stuck in between. Heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded, so I think I'll just stay where I am. So many people, well, it sure is lonely. Who even gives a damn? I hear someone calling, come in from the craziness, but there ain't nobody around. Heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded, so I think I'll just stay where I am. Yeah, heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded, so I think I'll just stay where I am.
So good morning.
Yay, you're a small but mighty group this morning. Welcome to Unity of Palmyra, where we believe that heaven and hell are states of mind, and we're going to talk about that today. And so we thank you for letting us have some fun before the service. What was that? Heaven is closed and hell's overcrowded. So we're going to be looking at that today. So welcome. At Unity of Palmyra, we are centered in love and we embrace a positive path for spiritual living. We are an open and affirming congregation, and we love you just the way you are in all of your magnificent glory. So welcome here, welcome at home. We're absolutely delighted that you are spending your Sunday morning with us. So let's drop in to a moment of prayer. If it's safe for you to close your eyes wherever you are, I invite you to do that as we signal to the universe that we are coming apart for a while. We are coming together in person and through the ethers to take this time to remember the truth of who we are. And we are spiritual beings having a very human experience. We're going to do a deep dive into that today, into the importance of integrating all of our parts, our divinity, our spirituality, our humanity, our physicality. We are all of this. And so we take this time apart to breathe, to center, to align, to remember. And so let's do that together. Let's take a nice, big, deep breath. And as we exhale, we become fully present. Fully present to the gifts this time has to offer. And so we say, thank you, God, for this time. Thank you, God, for whatever place you are in this morning, and most especially, thank you, God, for one another. And so it is. Amen. So if you can stand wherever you are, I invite you to do that as we sing our opening song.
I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. That's the song I hear. Let the world sing today. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. That's the song I hear. Let the world sing today. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
That was beautiful. I love that song. Let's make that a regular. That's a beautiful song. Let's share together now in our vision, centered in love. We embrace a positive path for spiritual living. And our mission, wherever we are, we provide a welcoming community that inspires and encourages all who gather here through the teaching, sharing, and practice of universal spiritual principles. All right, before you all sit down, wave at everybody, turn around, wave at the cameras as we say, we love you, we miss you, we can't wait till we can all be back together again in our sanctuary. All right, now you can have a seat. A couple of quick announcements. Our prayer chaplains at home today are Helen Baker and Linda Longenecker. Thank you so much for your support of this community. With every Thursday evening during this series, this Thursday at 7 p.m., we're having an Eye of the Storm Zoom. And if you have not jumped on one of those yet, we are having some really powerful, dig deep into this material conversation. So I encourage you to jump onto one of those at least once during the series, because we really have an opportunity to talk about these principles, some of which are a little like, what? And so during the Zooms, we get to actually talk about it. And I'm also going into more depth about some of the exercises that we're putting out for y'all. So those Zoom links are in your email blast that you're seeing throughout the week. And just a reminder that every Sunday afternoon, do check your email. We are sending out just a quickie blast with that week's exercises and supporting materials. So they're going out about 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoons. A reminder that we are in phase 2 limited reopening again, and I was very happy to see that once again this past week the numbers are going down. They're on a steady decline now, so keep wearing those masks, keep staying physically distant, keep sanitizing, get vaccinated, and we'll get through this. We are very excited to have everybody back. To that end, we're creating a goal that will give us something to work toward and will hopefully give us some hope. We are going to plan a special service and a party on August 29th. That is the last, I think that's the right date. It's the last Sunday in August. I think it's the 29th. And it's going to be a special service, and then we are going to have a party. So the reason we're creating that goal is so that it motivates all of us to stay healthy, stay following all the protocols, and get vaccinated as quickly as possible. So obviously, if anything changes and it's not safe to have that party, we won't. But we wanted to create that goal so we have something to work toward. So mark your calendars, August 29th, special service, party at Unity. And we'll get you more details as we move forward. And then finally, I am offering a 2-day self-care class on March 20th and April 3rd. Those are 2 Saturdays. These are available for spiritual education and enrichment credits if anyone like Gwen is thinking about pursuing LUT or ministry. And they're also just for anybody who wants to improve their self-care. We really look at what gets in the way of our self-care. The whole first Saturday is looking at the foundations of self-care, the principles of self-care, and why we know we do it, should do it, but don't. And then the second Saturday is going to be just chock full of self-care practices and support. So there is a registration link in your weekly email for that. If you're interested, please click on that and register. I think that's it for me for announcements. Miss Stephanie, would you like to read the daily word?
The daily word, world peace. Celebrating diversity and affirming unity, I am a presence of peace in the world. The road to peace begins with my open-hearted acceptance of those who are different from me. Our world is vast and diverse, and its people come from a wide variety of cultures and histories. The more I learn about those whose lives differ from mine, the more I can appreciate their perspectives and empathize with their struggles. When I make the decision to understand others, I discover that judgment fades in the light of compassion. Today I sow peace through my acceptance and understanding. Peace in the world grows as I join my brothers and sisters in celebrating the glory of human diversity and affirming oneness in God. And from Isaiah, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
I am home, my family is here. I feel loved by the ones I hold so dear. And when my family needs me, I promise to be there. And when I need my family, I'm lifted up in prayer.
So this is the time of our service where we come together in prayer, in that alignment, the alignment of heaven and earth, of body and soul, of our spirituality and our humanity. So let's take a big, deep breath together. And again, if it's safe to close your eyes so that we can fully focus, let's do that. And I invite us today to build on what we just heard in the daily word. By all appearances, there are many divisions in our world right now. And these divisions cause heartache and fear and anxiety. When we're focused on what divides us, we forget that there is so much that unites us, that we have so much more in common than what we perceive to be our differences. And so this morning I invite us to visualize a world undivided, a world that recognizes that we are in fact one, that we are many cells of the same body, that our hearts all beat, that our lungs all breathe, and when we remember that, the divisions and the differences seem to melt away. We have an opportunity to decide what is it that we give our energy to. Those differences or our oneness. Those ideas and beliefs and practices that seem to divide us, or our innate humanity that always unites us. We get to decide what we focus on, what we give our energy to, and what we feed. And so I invite us this morning to feed unity, to feed love, to feed our minds and our hearts opening to accept one another for the truth of who we are, to look beneath the surface into one another's hearts and souls. And as we do that, we see our differences melt away. We see that each one of us is the beloved. We see that we truly are one. And so I invite you to place your joys or your challenges into that space and allow that energy of oneness, that deep understanding of our unity, to add to your joy and to transform your challenge. We hold this intention collectively as community, as family. We live the spirit of Namaste. We behold the divinity in one another. And so we acknowledge Namaste.
The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. The God in me beholds the God in you. Namaste. You are I can change the world with my own two hands, make it a better place. With my own two hands, make it a kinder place. With my own two hands, with my own two hands. With my own two hands. Well, I can make peace on earth with my own two hands. I can clean up the earth with my own two hands. And I can reach out to you with my own two hands. With my own two hands. With my own two hands. Gonna make it a brighter place with my own two hands, and make it a safer place with my own two hands, to help the human race with my own two hands. With my own two hands. With my own two hands. I can hold you in my own two hands. I can comfort you with my own two hands. But you gotta use your own two hands. Use your own two hands. Use your own two hands. And with our own two hands. With our own two hands. With my own two hands.
Thank you, that was beautiful. I think we should have an all-music service one Sunday, don't you? Yep, I'm thinking we'll have a 5-minute talk, a 10-minute meditation, and the rest will be music. I'm digging that. Janie's like, you should check with me about these things before you say them on Sunday.
Well, at this point, I wouldn't argue. We can't do gigs.
There you go. See, we can do it. I love it. We'll talk about that. Maybe Easter. Maybe we'll do that on Easter. Maybe we'll have just a whole lot of music on Easter. Woo! Okay, let's get back into the eye of the storm. Today's talk is called The Soul's Conspiracy, and it's actually one of the, for those of you following along in the book, we're in chapter 4, and it's one of the little subsections that Gary has in this chapter, and he calls it The Soul's Conspiracy, and I was really attracted to that title and that energy, and you'll get more of that as I go along. But I want to start with a story that Ram Dass told in his book, How Can I Help? And the story goes like this. A big, tough samurai once went to see a little monk. "Monk," he said in a voice accustomed to instant obedience, "teach me about heaven and hell." The monk looked up at this mighty warrior and replied with utter disdain, "Teach you about heaven and hell? I couldn't teach you about anything. You're dirty. You smell. Your blade is rusty. You're a disgrace and an embarrassment to the samurai class. Get out of my sight. I can't stand you." The samurai was furious. He shook, he got all red in the face, and he was speechless with rage. He pulled out his sword and he raised it above him, preparing to slay the little monk. "That's hell," said the monk softly. The samurai was overwhelmed. The compassion and surrender of this little man who had offered his life to give this teaching, to show him hell. He slowly put down his sword. He was filled with gratitude, and he was suddenly peaceful. "And that's heaven," said the monk softly. So, in Unity, we do not believe that heaven and hell are actual places that we go to. We believe they are states of consciousness that we create right here and now. So for our purposes, within our study of the eye of the storm, we could say that we create hell when we fight what is. When we, to use a metaphor that we're going to play with a little bit later, when we resist what is. And we create heaven when we're willing to learn and grow and evolve from what is. When we're willing to be present with what is being presented to us and learn and grow from it. When we're willing to change. Another definition of hell is when we refuse to change, which means therefore we can't grow. And heaven is when we embrace change, when we're willing to learn from what's being presented to us. So Gary coined this term that he calls the Tao of conflict. And much of today's lesson does come from that Taoist tradition of recognizing duality in our lives and in the world. He says we make friends with conflict, with our challenges, by changing how we see a situation and what we make it mean, just as the samurai changed how he saw that. One definition of conflict, and this fits right in with the hurricane metaphor that we've been playing with, is that it's an interference pattern of energies. Whenever there's change or movement, resistance, pressure, or interaction, there's the potential for conflict. When change or movement is resisted, that's when shock waves are created, and when those shock waves collide, we have conflict. So the I Ching teaches us that change is never ending and proceeds according to universal rules. According to these teachings, the universe is composed of two opposite yet complementary forces. Remember, that's an important word. Opposite but complementary. They're not fighting each other, they're complementing each other, and the Taoists call that yin and yang. They're not static. They're constantly shifting back and forth. Many of us are familiar with the symbol of yin and yang, the round circle with the white side and the curvy line and the black side. What we pay less attention to when we're looking at that is that when that symbol is accurately displayed, there's a dot of black in the white and a dot of white in the black. It's saying that these are complementary and constantly shifting and changing. Within the light, there is darkness. Within the darkness, there is light. The teaching is that nothing exists by itself. Everything exists in relation to something else. Light and dark, strong and weak, warm and cold. Everything exists, including us, on a spectrum. Gary says, wherever there is change, movement, resistance, pressure, or interaction, there exists the potential for conflict. There is nothing that is without movement or change. Every single thing is either coming into existence, developing, decaying, or going out of existence. I'm going to say that again. Every single thing, including us, is either coming into existence, developing, decaying, or going out of existence. We would call that dying. Change and movement are the heartbeat of the universe. When change or movement is resisted or when energy patterns intersect, shock waves are created. So we all know that change is part of life. In fact, one of the most succinct teachings in the I Ching is simply that life is change. And yet many of us are very uncomfortable with change. Or we say that we love change and we're good with change right up until the moment that change is foisted upon us. I have been guilty of that. Erich Fromm once said, "The quest for certainty blocks the search for meaning. Uncertainty is the very condition to compel human beings to unfold their powers." You got to hate that, right? In order to grow, we have to be willing to embrace the uncertainty. And yet so much of the human condition is all about reaching for that certainty. So let's all take a deep breath and apply this to the past year. I think it's safe to say that we have all experienced great change in the past year. And so we get to ask ourselves, how have we been in the presence of that change? Did we say, yippee, another opportunity for growth? Or did we cling to how things have always been, railing against the limits that have been imposed on us? I know I've experienced both, swinging on that spectrum between days where I embraced the constant upheaval as an opportunity for growth, and then there were days where I did a fair amount of foot stopping and not faring and complaining. How about you? How have you been in the presence of all this change? So this is where Gary gets a little esoteric, and I want to share it with, I don't want to paraphrase this. I want to share this with you because it's beautiful and it's eloquent, and boy, is it food for thought. If you're following along, this is on page 56. He says, all events and relationships have their origins in the interaction of two opposite yet complementary forces, yin and yang. This is coming again from the Taoist tradition. This binary system of mapping the ebb and flow of creative influences in life became a method of understanding the laws of nature and the way that humanity could attain harmony with all life. These two poles, yin and yang, and their interaction are the substance of the phenomenal universe. Whatever name we apply to these forces, matter, energy, particle, wave, their relationship is not static, but typified by constant movement and shifting of power. To the Taoists, nothing exists of itself, but only in relation to something else. The universe is literally a dance of seeming polar opposites blending, shifting, becoming, transforming in a cosmic sea of potentiality and infinite possibilities. And while the forces of attraction and repulsion push and pull as dance partners, there is an underlying synergy that brings order to all things under heaven. Quantum physicists have discovered an intriguing paradox common to all universal systems. As independent and isolated as we often feel we are, or as separate as things appear to be, people and things exist only in relationship to all other things in the universe. There can no longer be concrete distinctions between matter and energy, particles and waves, space and time, observer and observed. Instead, there is an appreciation for a more fundamental and intrinsic quality associated with the stuff of the universe. Within all things is all things. So remembering that we are part of that stuff of the universe, within all of us is all of us. I know that's really heady and huge to try to wrap our minds and our hearts around, but we have the opportunity to bring those principles into our lives when we understand our own polarity. We are also polar beings. So Gary explains that our lives and our relationships are also energetic fields. We constantly have that pushing and that pulling that he's talking about. But within us, we call that pushing and pulling being and doing. Being and doing are the primary poles of self on that spectrum. And in the center of that spectrum is spirit. In the center of that spectrum is harmony and balance and serenity and peace and wholeness. That's why we say in spirit, we are all connected. There's a power in, and we're going to talk about this in a couple weeks in more depth, but there's a power to being able to find our center, both our physiological center, our emotional center, our spiritual center, because it is in that center that we are all connected. When I'm in my center, I'm in yours. When you're in your center, you're in mine. And so when we all come into that place of center, this is one of the reasons that many mystical Christian traditions focus so much on centering prayer. Because when we come into that place of center, we are in connection with one another. And so Gary says this understanding brings us into what he calls authentic being and conscious doing. And I just want to be clear, authentic being comes first. Getting very clear about who we are, what are our values, when are we being authentic, only then are we ready to take action. So the dictionary defines authentic as reliable, trustworthy, real, and genuine. So if we're being authentic or true to ourselves, then we're being real, genuine, trustworthy, and reliable. We say what we mean and we mean what we say. If we say we're going to do something, we do it. We bring a level of integrity and consciousness to everything that we do. So not being real, I would say, would lead to unconscious doing. In the coaching work, we would call that driven behavior. That we're reacting, we're doing what we've always done, we're not bringing a level of authenticity and integrity and consciousness to what we're doing. And it's that driven behavior that can cause the conflict, that can cause stress, that can cause anxiety, that can cause fear. So we want to do from a place of authentic being. So some examples of not conscious doing would be, and we're going to talk about this actually in the self-care class, feeling like you have to say yes to everything. Not being clear about how important a no can be. Authentic being leading to conscious doing means sometimes we speak up, even when, I think it's Brene Brown that says, when our voice shakes. I think that was Brene Brown. If not, someone drop a comment in and correct me so that I'm quoting accurately. Authentic being leading to conscious doing means that we bring that level of realness to everything that we do. We do the right thing even when it's uncomfortable. Gary says when we're true to our principles and values, and when we value others and ourselves, our energy field is dynamic and filled with potential. But when we have our being and our doing mixed up, in other words, when being right becomes more important than doing the right thing, then our energy field is discordant and we're setting ourselves up. He says we're setting ourselves up for conflict. I would make it even broader and say we're setting ourselves up for suffering, because that's when we suffer, when our doing is not authentic. I found a wonderful piece by Jeff Brown that I think really supports this teaching this week. He says, I am not interested in enlightenment if it means detachment from the emotional body, the earth plane, the challenges of being human. I am interested in enrealment. Don't you love it when people make up words? Because it means that my most spiritual moments are inclusive, arising right in the heart of all that is human. Joy and sorrow, shopping list and unity consciousness, fresh mangoes and stale bread. Enrealment is about living in all aspects of reality simultaneously, rather than only those realms that feel the most comfortable. We are not just the light or the mind or the emptiness or perpetual positivity. We are the everything. It's all God, even the dust that falls off my awakening heart. We are the everything, not just the things we agree with, not just the things we're comfortable with. We are the everything. So, are we willing to be uncomfortable? Not hearing any enthusiasm for that concept at all. So, are we willing to be curious about that which offends us, or annoys us, or upsets us, or rocks the very foundation of what we think we believe, what we have chosen to believe? I had an experience yesterday where I got really, really offended by something that somebody said. And I just really got my knickers in a twist. And that annoyance came out sideways at first. I got really, really angry because I couldn't find a part at Home Depot that I needed. And I realized, with the gentle yet firm support of my husband, to look at, why are you so upset about a part that you can't find at Home Depot? And I realized it had nothing to do with the part. It had to do with the offense I had taken about what this person had said. And the minute I acknowledged that, the minute I acknowledged my anger, my offense, my annoyance, my upset, my discomfort, I was able to drop into my center and look at what's up with that. Why was this so offensive to you? What happened in you that this got you so angry? That's the work of Eye of the Storm. Coming into the center, recognizing when we are in a wind of conflict, being willing to look at what's up with that instead of who's the matter with me. Big clue, you're in who's the matter with me when you have decided that someone else has made you angry or made you upset or has offended you. This work is all about shifting into that center. One of the foundational principles of the Eye of the Storm, and I'm sure you all have heard me say this, is what Gary calls the edge of our resourcefulness. Our conflicts and our challenges take us to the edge of our resourcefulness. And what this means is we are at the edge of what we know. We're at the edge of how we've always done things, or what we've always believed, or what we've always understood to be true. And we have a choice at that edge. We can step into what he calls the abyss, or we can step back, find our place of comfort, and do what we've always done. This work is about willing to step into that abyss, into that place of not knowing, into that place of uncertainty, and seeing that it's an opportunity to grow. So I think many of us have been brought to our edge over the last year. I know I have been brought to my edge over the last year. And many times I have remembered this term, and I've even said to Ken, as we've been working through all the challenges of the last year, oh my gosh, I am so at the edge of my resourcefulness here. And then I'm reminded that that's the place of opportunity. That's the place of possibility. As uncomfortable and as painful as it can be, that's where we grow. That's where we become real. So this is where we get to the soul's conspiracy. So there's we've often heard the phrase or used the phrase, oh, they're conspiring against me, right? Anybody feel like in the last year someone or something has conspired against you, right? Well, interestingly, to conspire means to breathe with. Yeah. So if we're saying someone is conspiring against me, what we're really saying is this person or this situation has been placed in front of me for my benefit. And so when we are being motivated by conflict or motivated by a challenge, in essence, our soul is conspiring with us to grow, to move past that edge of what we've always known how to do. Gary references an ancient Chinese saying. Gary's a martial artist, a master, which is why he uses all these really cool Chinese and ancient sayings. And one of them is, embrace tiger, return to mountain. So the mountain is a metaphor for the self, and the tiger is a metaphor for what I would call the inevitable slings and arrows. Here, I'm going to throw a little Shakespeare at you this morning, that we encounter on our journey. So one of our responses to conflict is or to our challenge, is that it can throw us into fight or flight. We can become very defensive. We can want to push back, or we can want to run away. And so part of this work is practicing becoming present to the circumstance when we don't feel safe. And Gary says one of the ways that we do that, and actually in the workshop we do a lot of work around this, is recognizing when we've moved into what he calls resistance. Now, we want to recognize that resistance is a metaphor, right? It's a real thing in the electrical current in your home. But in us, it's a metaphor for when we're up against something that has us feeling very uncomfortable, right? And the reason that I'm explaining that is that it's too easy to say, oh, I'm resistant to fill in the blank. And then it just stays there. And we look at, well, now what do I do with that? And that's one of the challenges of taking a real concept like electrical resistance and the ohm and how energy and electricity flows, and turning it into something that we apply to ourselves that isn't real, if that makes sense. Metaphors can sometimes prevent us from taking action and moving forward. So we want to get underneath the metaphor. And what the metaphor of resistance really points to is, I'm being presented with something that makes me really uncomfortable. And that discomfort has my energy going down. The real definition of resistance and how we understand it in electricity is that resistance blocks the flow of the energy. Like, so the narrower a channel is, the less energy gets through. So you want to lower resistance in that conduit so that more energy can flow through. In fact, when Freud coined the term resistance, it was because he was living in that age of just discovering electricity and how super cool it was. And so there were all these terms created and concepts created around electricity, just like now there's all sorts of terms and concepts created around quantum, right? And we're waiting for the next wave of whatever that will be. Like now everything's quantum this and quantum that. Well, in Freud's time, it was all about electricity. And so he was noticing that when people were struggling with a concept or feeling very uncomfortable, he said, oh, it's almost like their resistance is high, and so the energy isn't flowing. And so that's what Gary's talking about here. He's using that metaphor of resistance to help us recognize that we're simply in the presence of something that has us exquisitely, sometimes painfully uncomfortable. And when we're willing to see that, then we can do something about it. So in the book, and again, please read the book, he identifies two different forms of resistance. There's outer resistance, which is that someone or something is actually in our way. So hitting every red light on the way to church, or a traffic jam, or not being able to find the part at Home Depot. Those would all be outer. Computer crashes, your computer getting hacked. Those are all examples of outer resistance. So what happens is these occurrences become an issue when we personalize what's happening instead of just being present to what's happening and dealing with it. He also has what he calls inner resistance. And I would call inner resistance our monkey mind. Our inner resistance is that voice, that chatter, those beliefs, those conclusions that prevent us from being fully present to life. That we're more interested in the chatter. We're more interested in that ongoing conversation in our head than we are with being present to life. So he finishes up this section and this chapter with this. He says, the important point to see about resistance is that it arises from within. While it appears to be triggered by external conditions, resistance surfaces from within and keeps you from being present to the moment. This becomes a major factor in creating conflict because it works against your soul's intention. Your soul moves you toward the present moment so you can take authentic action. When you are driven to avoid a situation by resisting it, you fail to get the gift that the situation offers. So I think in a nutshell, when he's talking about resistance, what he's really saying is that conflict is most acutely the effect of resisting the resistance. That our discomfort, our suffering, is about resisting the resistance. Resisting the discomfort, not being fully present to what is. So let's take that into meditation.
Do you remember why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love, to serve and remember? To love, to serve and remember.
So I invite you to take a deep breath. To take a breath that you feel moving all the way through your body. All the way down to your toes. And back up again. And again, another deep, conscious breath. Feel the breath moving through your cells, moving through your muscles, moving through your bones, feel the breath, feel the air moving through you, becoming one with your physical body. Just as we cannot separate the breath from the body, we cannot separate spirit from our being. It is who we are. It is the enlivening life force that makes us what we are. It is the very center of our being. And when we remember that, when we are willing to return to the center, return to the Spirit, not denying our humanity, but recognizing that we are one. We are energy and matter, particle and wave, light and dark, weak and strong. We are all of it. Our power lies in remembering that truth, in becoming willing not to push anything away, not to resist, but to become present to what is. Not out of a sense of resignation or defeat, but with an energy of possibility, of the infinite potential being presented to us beyond that edge. Beyond the edge of everything we've known, believed, understood, and done. There is so much more out there when we are willing to open our hearts and our minds to that possibility. To become curious, to become willing, to recognize who we are, so that what we do is authentic and conscious. To listen, to the whispering of our soul, to recognize when our soul is conspiring to help us grow, to help us change and evolve, to become fully authentic, fully human, fully spiritual, and to recognize that it's all the same thing. With every breath, we have an opportunity to remember who we are, to remember why we're here, to remember love, with every breath, we remember.
To love, serve and remember. To love, to serve and remember. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come?
So this is the time of our service where we do not pass the basket anymore, and I think we should just get rid of that forever. Like we're going to get rid of our bulletin forever. I think there are so many changes that we've made over the last year that we realize we like better than the way we were doing things before, but we really can't wait for the hugging to return. So that is something we will not get rid of forever. So if you feel that this community has supported you in any way, I encourage you to give of your time, your talent, or your treasure so that we can experience that exchange of energy that's so important for us human beings to experience in the world. And as always, we are so incredibly grateful for your ongoing generosity, for your incredible support of this community over the last now more than a year. Can't say the past year because now it's been more than a year, and we just want you to know how incredibly grateful we are. Thank you.
Things he couldn't change. He tried his best to play it cool, but in the 7th grade, you either fit right in or you don't fit. That's just the cold hard truth. I wish that I'd have been the friend that Billy never knew. I think it's time we come together. You and I can make a change. Maybe we can make a difference, make the world a better place. Look around and love somebody. We've been here for long enough. Let the good Lord reunite us to this country that we love, undivided.
Yeah.
You either go to church or you're gonna go to hell. Get a job at work or you're gonna go to jail. I just kinda wish we didn't think like that. Why's it gotta be all white or all black? And when we gonna learn to try on someone's shoes sometimes? When we gonna start to see it from someone else's eyes? I think it's time we come together. You and I can make a change. Maybe we can make a difference, make the world a better place. Look around and love somebody. We've been hateful long enough. Let the good Lord reunite us to this country that we love's undivided. Oh yeah, undivided. Oh yeah. We're all the same to God, no matter what we get His love. I'm tired of looking left and right, so I'm just looking up. I think it's time we come together. You and I can make a change. Maybe we can make a difference, make the world a better place. Look around and love somebody. We've been hateful for long enough. Let the good Lord reunite us to this country that we love's undivided.
Come on.
Oh yeah, undivided. Oh yeah. You either go to church or you're gonna go to hell.
Oh, yeah.
Get a job at work or you're gonna go to jail.
Undivided.
I just kinda wish we didn't think like that. Why's it gotta be all white or all black?
I love it when you get all Texas on us over there. We needed a couple extra y'alls and yee-haws, I think, to go with that.
Thank you, ma'am.
So there's kind of a funny story around that song. I first heard that during the inaugural concert, and I instantly wrote to Janie and Jody, and I said, "Oh my gosh, you guys have to do this song." And Jody wrote back very sweetly and said, "Steph, I sent you this song a couple of months ago and suggesting that we do this." And I was like, never mind, we have to do this song. So it was obviously divine order that we do this song. All right, let's stand and share in our unity blessing together. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in each and every one of you. And it is birthday Sunday. See, I didn't even need Janie to remind me this month. It is birthday Sunday. So if you have a March birthday, stay where you are, but wave your hand. And out in Facebook land, we are waving to all of the March birthdays. Happy birthday, Janie.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday to you.
And many more. Great. Let's sing the peace song. surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And wherever God is, all is well. So go forth, have a wonderful week. Big thanks to our worship team this morning and some of the scurrying around some of the sound issues that were going on behind the scenes. We're so grateful for all of you. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.